Hello class. From this lesson, we're going to move on to texturing of your model. So before we put texture on your model, we need to consider the UV mapping of your model. So what is the UV? Here, let's create a polygon cube, and I'm going to explain you the concept. So this is a 3D cube, right? And if we're going to create a texture for this cube, what is the dimension of the texture map? It is a 2D, right? Any of the image is 2D. And think about it. If you're going to paint texture, a texture image, you're going to use, for example, digital software like a Photoshop, right? And what is the dimension of the canvas in Photoshop? It definitely is a 2D. So that's how it works. So basically, you'll have to make this a 3D cube to a 2D plane, a 2D map, and that is called a UV mapping. Okay, and you can also look around any 3D object around you. So if you want to make this 3D object in a 2D plane, you'll have to cut all the edges, right, and then unfold the cube to the ground plane. So in 3D software like Maya, that process is called UV mapping. Basically, you will unfold this 3D cube or other 3D object into a 2D texture plane, and that process is called UV mapping, and which is especially important because later on you're going to apply this 2D texture map onto this cube. So if you unfold this UV map to a 2D plane, and then you know the accurate position of this texture map on each plane. Okay, so let me show you how you can do that. So here I created a polygon cube, right, 3D cube. To get to the UV, so here you'll go to the UV and UV editor. Since this is a default cube that Maya has, a polygon cube, so the UV it should be good to go for texture mapping. As you can see, all of these faces, they are square, right? They are square. Their scale relationship is the same as a real object. Okay, so it is good to go. So first I'll show you how to put a texture map onto, how to create a texture map for this cube. So to create something as a reference for Photoshop, what you'll have to do is make sure you select your object in object mode. And then in the UV editor window, you'll go to image and UV snapshot. Okay, and then you'll put it in location. So here I put it on desktop, and you can give it a name if you click on browser, and you can change the location and put it a name. And for format, I recommend use a PNG format. And for size, it only depends on what resolution of the texture you want for your model. So I always start with a higher resolution like 2048 for X and Y. So I have more space to paint my texture, and later on, if I only want to use a 1024 image or a 512 image, I can just shrink that image, right? So I have this high resolution image as a backup. Okay, and edge color, choose black color. So what's gonna happen is later on, if you apply and close, okay, you're gonna have a texture map. A UV map. Let me show you. Okay, where's my finder? Okay, here is it. So this is the UV map I just created, and if I open it, as you can see, I'm on Mac OS. So this image, PNG image I opened, here it shows gray color, that means it's transparent. So it only has this black outline, okay, which is solid, and all the other areas is transparent. Okay, so that means I can use it as a reference for Photoshop to paint the texture. Okay, so that is the setting of the UV map. And then we got to move on to Photoshop. And for those who don't have a Photoshop, who haven't purchased Photoshop for your computer, so you can use this program, GIMP. It is a free Photoshop alternatives, and here I have a link, to show you the basics of this program. It's very easy. Okay, so here I'll move on to Photoshop. So first, let me drop in my UV map. Actually, let me rename it as UV, and I'll drop it in. And as you can see in Photoshop, this gridded area. This grid area is transparent, right? And here's our stroke as a UV map. And here, let's rename this layer as a UV, and we'll create a new layer, and we'll choose the color as white, and we'll fill this color to the new layer, which is underneath our UV. Okay, and then we'll create another new layer, and we'll choose the color either as a red or blue. Okay, and we can write some text, instead of this cube, this square, and it'll show on the cube here in Maya. Okay, but how am I decide which face is the front face here? Okay, how can I decide that? So what you have to do is select the face, go to the face mode here in Maya and select the front face. Let's see, this face is the front, right? As you can see, here's the z-axis, and it shows that here. So now we know this face is here. So this is up edge and this is down edge. So how can I know if it is the same already here? So what I can do is just to go to the edge mode, select this edge. So this is the top edge and this is the bottom edge. So now if I know that if I write my text in this face, okay, it'll appear on the cube. Alright, so now we can back to Photoshop and we can start to write in this square, and we can write anything. And let's use a brush. Let's see if I use 3D modeling. I'm using my mouse, so terrible in writing. Okay, so this text will show, as how we see here, it'll show it here. Okay, and then let's start to write on the side faces. And for this face, we know it should be, let's see, okay, should be this side. Okay, and this face should be here. And let's just select this edge, and we can see this is the top edge, and here's another top edge. So we can start to write. We know this is the top, right? And I can just duplicate and make it to this side. And here is the front, actually the top. As you can see, if I select the top face, it is here. Okay, and this is the top edge of the front face. And we can start to write. And okay, and here I'll say side. Okay, and then when it goes to this face, which is the back face, and this edge will be the top edge, so it is upside down. Okay, so if you want to write, you will have to write something like this. Okay, and this is the bottom. This should be the bottom face. So if we come here, as you can see, this is the bottom face, and this edge should connect to the back face, right? And this edge should connect to the front face. Okay, and we can come here, and we can see, here's the front, and here we'll come to the back face. Alright, so now we finish the texture and we'll save it as a JPEG image. Okay, and then we can go back to Maya. And here, how to apply the texture to our model. We'll have to go to Windows, Rendering Editor, Hypershade. Okay, in Hypershade window, basically it'll show us all of the materials we have in this scene. And these three materials are default materials. So whenever you create a scene, you'll have these three materials. And this is the default material for any objects you have created in the scene. Okay, so we'll come here and create a new material, and we'll create a new number material. So number material is basically the default material we have in Maya. Okay, so I'll create a new material, and you can rename it as M01. Basically, this is the first material we're going to use. Okay, and for a color here, that is the texture map for your model. So we'll have to go from here, click on this checker box, and then we'll apply a 2D texture, which is a file. Okay, because we have that texture image as a file for our material. So click on that here, and then you'll come here. So file attributes. So here's the image name. So where's the image? You'll have to load the image, and then go to the folder where you place the texture and select the texture you just saved, and click on open. Okay, nothing show up here because our model is still with this material. So we have to select our model in object mode. Make sure you select it in object mode, and then right click on your material and assign material to selection. And then the texture should show up. If it doesn't show up, okay, you may in other mode, for example, for number 4 or number 5, it just display the material, right? If you press number 6, it's going to display the texture and the material. So here is it. As you can see, this is the front face. We have road 3D modeling, and the side we have road. Here's the top, and here's the top. We road. Here's the side, and here's the back face, and here's the bottom. So for the bottom face, we have road. Where's the front face? Where's the back face? Alright, so that is the basics of how to create a texture map for a model. And in the next lesson, we'll talk about more complex situation. For example, if you create a model and you deformed all these shapes, and then the texture map will not show correctly on your model. It will be distorted. And then we'll do something called UV mapping, and then unfold the UV to the correct proportion and apply texture to the model.